that was Johnson County Republican Party Chair Bob Anderson. We're back here with your weather. It's a high of 29 today, and it looks like we got about 60% chance of more snow. Tomorrow, it's going to stay right around 29, so it looks like high 20s, low 30s for the rest of the week with chances of snow. We're going to toss it on over to Ryan, who has our next article. Or Alex, I'm sorry.
Yep, I got it. Now, President Obama is proposing a change to one of George W. Bush's flagship issues, No Child Left Behind. And what he wants to do is the first thing he's going to get rid of there was this 2014 deadline to have every American child at proficiency, right at the level they're supposed to be at, and he's going to eliminate that deadline. And then secondly, he is going to break things up into categories and get rid of, there was this pass-fail requirement where you either improved or nothing. And so there's going to be several different categories, and it's breaking down the schools. What is your guys' first gut reaction to these changes?
Thank God.
Yeah. I just thought No Child Left Behind was just a horrible idea. Because inadvertently, you were punishing schools by taking away their money that needed the help the most. And they were just failing even worse because they had no money to change anything.
Okay, it wasn't, I'm going to disagree. It wasn't a horrible idea. It just wasn't a good idea. Yeah. The idea behind it was great.
What?
No, it wasn't a horrible idea, but it was a horrible
You're
law.
saying it's a horrible idea?
No, it's not.
The idea was good. How they did it was
good,
bad.
but how they did it was bad is what I'm trying to say.
I agree with that.
Okay, good intention.
It was, I couldn't think of the word, so I was trying to avoid it. But yeah, it had good intentions. It's just he didn't realize that by exactly what Ryan said, by failing the schools and not giving them any money, they're not gonna get any better. So from what I've read so far, again, there's not like a huge amount of information.
Well, it really just came out because he brought it up in the State of the Union.
Yeah. From what I've seen, it seems like a lot better. I mean, you can't just have these blanket policies across that says either meet this proficiency or get no money. So I think so far it's a great idea.
Now, you guys, so the only other question that this really brings up is then are both of you all right with federal because how he's going to do this is, he holds funding, and then if they don't agree to take it, then they don't get federal funding. Now, are you okay with this kind of federal control of state schools?
I'm definitely okay with it.
You're fine?
Because states were in control for a long time, and they've been
Well, they have the constitutional control. In the Constitution, the control of education goes to the state.
I'm a big states' right activist, and I would like to see the states have more control. But the federal money has a right to, or the federal government has a right to say, if you don't meet our requirements, you're not going to get your federal money. So I think that makes sense. I mean, I don't like that they're controlling it that way, but these schools need these resources and this money. And if that's the way that the federal government wants to play, you're going to have to play by their rules. It is their money.
Mm-hmm.
Very well.
Great. All right. This will take us into the next education topic. With the federal government changing everything, we're going into charter schools. Next year, there will be the biggest year of growth for New York City charter schools, with 29 due to open in New York City alone. And there's a bill to double the amount of charter schools in Albany that actually ended in deadlock. And the current state law limits the number of charter schools to 200, and there are already 182 open or due to open. So what do you guys think of charter schools and this cap that Albany has that they can only have 200 charter schools in the city?
I don't know why you need why a cap. They're going to be they're getting educated. They're going to be educated well. I don't really see why you would be upset. I don't think that there's really that big of an issue there. As long as they're getting a quality education, then who cares? Because sometimes the public schools just can't cut it, and you don't have the kind of parent commitment in the public schools that makes a good school. So if you've got the parent commitment at a private school, which is usually required, a private school usually asks a lot of the parent as well, then to go right ahead.
Marcus?
Yeah, I don't agree with the cap at all. I mean, I think charter schools are a great way to get a good education. There's so many shortcomings we always hear about the public school system, and finally there seems to be a way around if you can afford it. I mean, it is more expensive, and you do have to pay for it. But I think that if you can afford it, why should there be a cap? I mean, I understand that yes, there's public money going towards it, but if you're bettering the students and bettering the children of the next generation, why should you set a cap on that? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, taxes can go down because you're not going to have as much going to the schools.
Right. The only legitimate group I see having a problem with with these public schools or with the charter schools, excuse me, is the teachers union, because they're not going to work for private companies, and like they have a huge bone with these charter schools because they're not unionized.
What do you guys think about? They say they're going to have $4 billion devoted to charter schools. Do you like having $4 billion?
Is that federal or state?
That's federal.
I was gonna say I don't think the state has that.
Yeah,
much.
I was gonna say that's a lot of money.
Devote $4 billion.
Try it. I mean, why not? I mean, what's happening now obviously is not working very well. So I've said time and time again, there are a few things I like government spending money on for the betterment of the population, but I think that education is one thing that they need and they're responsible to do. I mean, I have no problem paying a little bit extra in taxes to have good education for younger people. I think that is exactly the right way to go.
A little bit more philosophical question. Without a cap, are you afraid the education system might turn more to the private sector and eventually we'll just have a private sector for education?
Well, I'm not afraid of it.
I want that.
If they do a better job, then they do a better job, and we have more government money to go somewhere else.
Why is
we don't have enough government money as it is, so we'll finally have enough government money.
Yeah. I don't understand why capitalism can't apply to schools. I mean, if the private sector does a better job, which it will, why not let it be the one that's in charge? I mean, you're going to have some kind of overall regulations to make sure that they're teaching the same things. But if it's private funded and the private sector runs education, it'll probably run more efficient and better than what the public is running, because each school district and each school within the district can set its own curriculum to match whatever the federal level says.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's still got to be some sort of government standard. I mean, they all have to be very intensely regulated. It's an education. And the only issue that I could see rising up, but it's up to the parents once again, and so, it's really the American people's choice, is private schools' tendency to be, you could have a lot of religion in there. And so that's the only kind of issue I see the American public getting upset about, but that's up to them to decide.
So
if they
don't send your kid to
That's
the
what I'm
school.
saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm just saying that that's the only problem that I could ever foresee.
Now, if the whole education system goes into the private sector, what about those kids who can't pay for it? Should the government subsidize those kids to allow them to? Or should there be like a public education system always for those who can't pay for it?
Here's the way I can kind of see it shaking out, is that eventually, if we do go more towards this charter school, then they won't need as much public money at those charter schools, because by the time these corporations form and get their money moving and be able to build these schools, that frees up more public money for these public schools that the kids can still go to. So if they can't afford to go to a private school, they can go to a public school. That I don't think that would be that much different in terms of the education they receive. It may not be as good, but I'm sure it'll be enough to meet the standards.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that if more students have left, then that gives more funding and we can isolate, and I think you could actually have a better result, because teachers can have smaller classrooms and things like that in a public setting, which could then shift it back the other way if they got better. But
Good.
All right.